Good morning. So my topic was co-teaching, and so I actually just mostly used the book. There was an entire chapter on co-teaching, and it had a lot of really good information. So this is co-teaching in a differentiated classroom. I'm Alicia Jenke. I think you guys all know me by now. It's 6 weeks that we've been at this. So this is just going to be highlighting the 4 approaches to co-teaching that were in our book. I found a quote that I thought was really applicable. It's children are the priority, change is the reality, and collaboration is the strategy. This quote was from Judith Billings, and I just thought that it really kind of hit the nail on the head in terms of co-teaching and in reality just how to differentiate instruction in general. The 4 approaches to co-teaching, so this, like I said, came from our book. The first is supportive. So one teacher takes the lead instructional role, and then the other teacher kind of moves around the classroom and works with the students individually. So this is going to be more of a standard classroom format where one teacher is teaching and then you just have some extra help in there of somebody who's kind of filling in the gaps and making sure that everybody's on the same page. There are some concerns in terms of supportive, and that would be that the co-teacher becomes, what the book said, Velcroed to students with needs. And so this is going to look more like that instead of the co-teacher moving around and helping and differentiating for all students, they're really truly just focusing on 1 or 2 or the students that they know that they're in there for, and that can actually cause a stigma. The students that are the ones that the co-teachers Velcro to could be picked on. They could feel singled out and not necessarily want the support anymore, and then become kind of anti-support. The next is parallel co-teaching. So this is when there's 2 or more teachers. There could be more than 2. I'm kind of just basing everything off of 2 teachers at the moment because I think a lot of our districts, if you're going to be a co-teacher, you're working with just 1 additional helper in the classroom. So this is where the teachers are going to work in different areas and with different students. They will share the responsibility of all the students, but they are not going to be working with students together. They're always going to be kind of split apart. The teachers are not going to be working simultaneously with one group. There are 7 variations to the parallel co-teaching model. I will touch on those in the next slide, but a concern is that in parallel teaching, there's going to become a special class within the class. So instead of students being pulled out and going into their own resource room sort of situation, it's going to become a resource room within the classroom. So the students that need the co-teacher will be put into a group with the co-teacher, and the rest will go over to the other side of the classroom and work with the content specialist teacher. And then instead of there being an integrated classroom with differentiated instruction, what you're actually seeing is the students with needs are going to be working with the co-teacher, and then the content specialist will take everybody else. Quickly touching on the 7 parallel teaching approaches, you can also find this in our book, and that's going to have a lot more detail. But the first is a split class. So each teacher focuses on one group, divide it down the middle. One takes half, one takes the other. Next is station teaching or learning centers. We've kind of talked about this, but not in a co-teacher format. But students are going to move between centers, and each center will be led by a teacher. And students are the ones moving. Rotating co-teacher, similar concept, different functionality, meaning that the teachers are going to move. The students will stay put, they'll be placed in their groups will be stationary, and then the teacher will move from group to group, working with that group individually. Next, cooperative group monitoring. So in this one, students are going to be put into cooperative learning groups, and they're going to be oversaw by one teacher. So that means that students are paired in groups where the teachers feel they will work best. not based on learning strategies or learning skills or styles. It's going to be, okay, these students have these strengths, these students have this strength. We're going to pair them together because I think they'll all work together well. Experiment or lab monitoring, this is going to be more for a science-based classroom, and the teachers will work with specific laboratory groups. Learning style focus. This is going to be a lot like we've just been discussing for the last few weeks. We're going to break students up based on their learning styles, and then teachers will move from each of those groups and teach that group in their learning style. Lastly, the supplementary instruction. This fills in the gaps. So you have a content area teacher that's teaching the basic lesson, and then your co-teacher is going to come through and kind of fill in the gaps from that with supplementary instruction, the things that maybe the content area teacher is missing. All right. So next we have complementary co-teaching. So this is going to be a little similar to the last part. One teacher is going to enhance the other teacher's lesson. So your content teacher is going to take the lead. They're going to step into the main role in the classroom. They're going to teach the content. They're going to give the lesson. And then your co-teacher is going to come in and they're going to create strategies and ways for the students to adapt and move through the lesson with some assistance, maybe additional notes or a transparency, just different ways to make it a little more easy to understand for certain students. Again, this is a shared responsibility for all students between the co-teachers. So not one teacher is in charge and then another teacher has just a few. Any of those enhancements can be used by all of the students within the classroom. It's not specifically for one or two students. They're just going to be an addition. And then the co-teachers teach small group lessons, or they teach extra information. So if you have students who need to maybe take the lesson a little further, the co-teacher can take that. They can spearhead that and bring that group into the next level. Or if you have some students that need to be brought up, while the rest of the group is working individually, the co-teacher can pull a small group lesson together and give those students the additional information that they need to come up to the level of the rest of the class. Concerns. Our co-teachers do not usually have the content mastery that your content teacher is going to have. But that's not always a bad thing, because just because this co-teacher isn't doesn't have mastery in the content area, doesn't mean they don't bring other strengths to the table. And those things are important because all of the teachers that we have within the school district are going to be good at some things and not as good at others. So when you come together and work as a team, you're still bringing different skills and different things to the classroom. The final one is team co-teaching. So both teachers work together, planning and teaching. They're responsible for all of the students, again, and then each teacher can utilize their strengths. So in this model, what happens is the teachers can kind of divide and conquer. Okay, I know that I'm really strong in presenting and I feel really comfortable being in the front of the classroom and communicating ideas and engaging the students and making sure that they feel like they're a part of the conversation. And let's say my co-teacher feels really comfortable working in small groups, pulling students in, making sure that they're getting that one-on-one attention that they need. So I maybe spearhead a lot of the content mastery sort of stuff where I teach the bulk of the beginning part of the lesson, but then when we get to the we do section where we need the teacher to kind of come in and really work specifically with students, maybe my co-teacher is going to step in and take over for that part. Or let's say there's a lesson that my co-teacher feels really strong and confident in and they want to be the one who is in charge for that lesson. They step up, they do the teaching for that part, and I step back and I slide into whatever other role needs to be filled at the time. Concerns with the team co-teaching is that there's too much talking. The teachers are going to talk. They're going to be delivering information. We're going to be kind of filling, but not allowing the students to have any type of communication. And there's also a concern that if the communication between the co-teachers isn't strong enough, that there will be repeating of information. And then also a lack of student involvement. They're not going to be as hands-on if there's a lot of teacher talking. So some similarities within each of them is within the 4 models would be that there's 2 or more co-teachers in the classroom at all times. It's kind of in the name. I mean, it makes sense co-teaching. You're going to have at least 2 teachers, but there can be more. It doesn't have to be limited to just 2 for any of these models. They have the strengths where you get to use the strengths of both teachers. And if the teachers take time and communicate with each other, it's going to allow them to really to benefit each other and know, okay, I'm good at this and I can make sure that this is an important thing. And then more support for students, and then a better mix of student abilities because the teachers can kind of zero in and really help to bring those student abilities out. And then the one thing that is really important for all 4 is that the co-teachers really must trust each other and work together seamlessly. So my questions. Question 1, which 2 co-teaching strategies do you prefer and why do you think they are the most effective? Question 2, in your own classroom, do you think it will be easier and more effective to differentiate instruction with a co-teacher? Why or why not? And please use specific examples to support your answer.